Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Let's start.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah. Hare Krishna, 1 minute, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams. So glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhuji, you can take over now.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiti Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padayam Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing our discussion on the third category of the punishments, and we have discussed in that third category we have 3 different types. We already finished the type 1 of them. I'll just quickly do a recap of what we discussed in our last class. So out of all the sets of punishments, we finished the first and second part, which are dealing with general sins and also those who are committing some very serious offenses, even including demigods or a sadhaka, a new bhakta. The category 3, the third section, we finished section 1, section 2, and in the third section we had 3 types. The first type is about a self-realized soul punishing a practicing or even a normal praja or any special specific reason. Somebody who is out of blue being punished, even though they may have not sought for such a support, but because the self-realized soul is kind, so he punishes and tries to establish his point. And we had discussed 4 reasons why those things are happening. Number 1, it is the primary duty of every self-realized soul to make sure that righteousness is established. And we discussed about how they have to set some precedents so that people not blame or people not try to recklessly behave. And third is natural compassion in the heart of a self-realized soul makes them behave, go out of the way, correct someone who is committing mistakes. And fourth, we discussed this, it is they're exercising the authority as a official bona fide representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They do what they do. And in that we discussed around 4 different pastimes, or identified 4 different pastimes which falls into this, kind of section. Number 1 is about how Narada Muni punished Nalakwera and Manigriva. We discussed about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, they delivered Jagai and Madai. Initially, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to punish, but eventually they are delivered, and eventually they were given a task. They were given some sort of a service where they're supposed to perform menial, humble service by constructing ghat for Vaishnavas. We discussed the pastime of Gopala Chappal, who was punished to have by the nature's arrangement. Of course, Srivas Thakur did not directly punish, but because he offended Srivas Thakur, the Supreme Lord, by his divine arrangement, punished him to have the leprosy disease, and eventually had to ask forgiveness to get rid of that. Then the fourth example we discussed is about the Chota Haridas and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pastime. So then we started discussing about the type 2 of the section 3, where it is about the typical practicing devotee committing aparadha. So we discussed that how there are 4 types of aparadha: Nama aparadha, Dham aparadha, Seva aparadha, and Vaishnava aparadha, and how aparadha is against Srimati Radharani. And we did discuss about how somebody has developed, how somebody, when they are committing an offense, they fall down. This we discussed earlier also. And in the journey of learning, all these aparads are part of our anarthas in the heart. And we discussed 4 different sources of anarthas: Duskrutota, Sukrutota, Aparadota, and Bhaktadota. So to that extent, we had finished our discussions. So now we will continue from that point and try to finish this particular category. I mean, in the sense that the type 2, let us try to finish it today, and next week we will do the type 3, then we go to the final section, and then we wrap up the series. So it is imperative that we need to learn the root cause of all that is happening, why they are happening. Because as practicing devotees, many a times we are baffled, sometimes surprised, sometimes we get to hear there are mistakes happening, there are fall downs happening, there are misbehaviors that are happening. So when we hear all of those things, we get slightly confused, or how is this possible that a practicing devotee or somebody who is serious enough, they kind of fall down, or they kind of get into some sort of difficulties. So we are going to discuss a typical use case of a practicing devotee, and then going to analyze this particular scenario. So I will read some portions from Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, in the pastimes of Ajamila. So in the pastimes of Ajamila, what Ajamila's characters were, and we will analyze that from that point in time, how this entire journey of aparadha and fall down has happened. Okay. So this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. It is explained. This is text 6.1.56-57. I will read a portion of them only. In the beginning, this Brahmana named Ajamila studied all the Vedic literatures. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions. He was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajamila was very respectful to his spiritual master and the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of the household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy anyone. Just imagine the set of narration about Ajamila's conduct. It is not that, if you analyze Ajamila's conduct from that verse perspective, we have not even have 10% of what is mentioned over here. So it is very interesting that Ajamila's wonderful characters are listed here. And these characters, when we read them, just for the sake of, I'll share the screen. So these wonderful qualities that are listed, and just 2 verses later, text number 62, it is explained. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of Shastras, not even to see a woman. And his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires. But because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. So we are trying to discuss an use case for this particular type of punishment or the category, where look at Ajamila's prayer fall down scenario. We discussed verse number 56, 57 of Ajamila's episode, where the listed qualities, the words that are used, or he studied Vedic literatures as practicing devotees we do. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. He is firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions. He was very mild, gentle, so on and so forth. 56, 57 we just read. So the question now arises. The conversation is now that how did he slip? So basically, Ajamila studied all the Vedas. He had a spiritual master. So when we say he is doing all these things, can we conclude that we are, controlled by somebody who is making us fall down, who is making us committing mistakes? So should we not take onus of our actions? So the point that we are trying to drive home with respect to this Vaishnava Aparada, or a person committing some offenses, because Ajamila is punished. So this particular example is of Ajamila use case being discussed to describe about how a practicing devotee, when he commits an aparad, when he commits a mistake, when he commits a sin, he is punished and eventually he is given some helping hand also. So from that perspective, we are going to draw an interesting flow chart of what has happened and what is the background scenario, and as a practicing devotee, how are we going to take care of ourselves so that we are careful in our devotional journey. So we will start this flow chart. I will just switch to my So we will now discuss about this aspect about how all these things are happening and how somebody needs to be very careful, vigilant, prudent about his or her practice in Krishna consciousness. So we will start with this point. So this is type 2, section 3 of our punishment series that we are discussing, where we are discussing about practicing devotee committing mistakes punished. So Arjuna is asking Krishna a very interesting question. Arjuna asked so this flow chart we are going to discuss from a very logical perspective. So Arjuna is asking Bhagavad Gita 3.36. What was Arjuna's question to Krishna? Arjuna is asking, my dear Krishna, why without desire one is engaged in sinful activities as if he is engaged by force? So this is what the scenario is. We are forced into doing sinful activities as if I am pushed into this. Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha aninchal abhivashneya balat iva niyojita. By what is one impelled to sinful acts? Even unwillingly, as if engaged by force. So he is asking Arjuna, Krishna, are you or any other force trying to make us commit these sinful activities? Because this question several times as a practicing devotee, we would have been contemplating on. Oh, I have been practicing devotional life, suddenly how I deviated. For which Krishna is giving so basically this flow chart is a combination of thought process spread over Bhagavad Gita, but we are trying to put them into a perspective to note how Vaishnavas are supposed to be careful, what is their important agenda in their devotional life, and how they can be saved from such mistakes so that these types of punishments and situations we don't go through. So typically Arjuna's question is also our question. Now Krishna is explaining very clearly. Krishna is explaining that, my dear Arjuna, it is lust. So the chart is lust born out of mode of passion. He says the all-devouring sinful enemy and the destroyer of the path of self-realization, because of this lust born out of mode of passion, is the reason why one commits sinful activities. This sinful act, the forced sinful act, or aparada. So Krishna is saying lust born out of mode of passion. And for this he is giving a very wonderful explanation. He says how this lust overpowers, he's explaining in Bhagavad Gita 2.62. Very famous verse. What is that verse? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsan Sangas Teju Payatayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate. While contemplating, so as we contemplate, associate with modes of nature. When one is contemplating and associating with modes of nature, then he is put into such situations. So he says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So he is saying this chart that we are discussing here is about how a person, when they are not careful about associating with modes of nature, which eventually raises them to being attached to them. When you associate with them, you get attached to them. When you get attached to them, Krishna is saying, so our desire, our attachment is a cause for our destiny. Now the question rises that one may ask, how can I be saved from such modes? Because it is important that we need to be, so question now is, how can I save from the modes? So this one's situation of being in the modes, because if you say that I have no desire for being in the modes, but somehow because of lust I got into the some sort of developing attachments and stuff like that, and these are all interconnected. Because of modes I got lust, because of lust I got into the modes and eventually brought my own destiny. So now the question is that how do I get rid of this situation? Because the situation is scary. So Krishna is explaining 3 points. One is by only spiritual strength born out of proper practice of Krishna consciousness and right attachment one can be saved. So this is Bhagavad Gita 3.43. So the idea is that in Krishna consciousness we get the right attachment beyond the modes of nature. So if somebody is not attached to the modes of material nature, if somebody is not attached to its own practices, if somebody is not getting into a very clear-cut agenda on how somebody can get rid of these modes of material nature, evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatru mahabaho kama rupam durashatam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So, spiritual strength, and the spiritual strength need to be supported with proper practice of Krishna consciousness. That is why we are repeatedly spoken about sadhana. once sadhana is actually helping them to get rid of the modes of material nature, and by developing attachment to one sadhana, that is why somebody's bead bag, it is very important, being attached to bead bag. Not just attached to bead bag, but even chant on the bead bag. It is our savior. It is our biggest, rescue from this fall down, because Ajamila, we will analyze it further. So the idea is our modes of material nature, the situation, somebody can get rid of them just by. That's why Prabhupada is giving importance to the practices of Krishna consciousness and how one should be, at least to the least possible extent, be attached to one's own sadhana, his morning chanting, his reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, and things like that. Now, question can be asked further. What is the question? How can I develop attachment to Krishna consciousness and be saved? So the answer is our attachment to sadhu. Because by being attachment to sadhu, we will develop attachment to Krishna consciousness. What type of sadhu? We are supposed to attach to sadhus. Sarva Sangha Vivirjitaha Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana. One who is free from all material attachments, and one who has developed through his practices good qualities, as mentioned by Kapila Deva, Titikshava Karunika Suhrada Sarva Deginam. So it is very important that if one develops attachment to sadhu, so now the reverse attachment is by being in the sadhu sangha, by being in the Vaishnava assembly, of those Vaishnavas who are free from all material qualities and who has developed good qualities, we have definitely an opportunity to develop being attached to Krishna consciousness and its practices. By being attached to Krishna consciousness and practices, we will be able to get rid of ourselves from the modes of material nature. When we are able to get rid of from the modes of material nature, we will definitely get rid of all the lust, greed, anger, envy, ego, pride, illusion, and which will definitely stop us from committing sinful activities and aparadha. Now, $1 million question that comes in, that in case of Ajamila, that he has everything that is listed. We just listed about Ajamila, so many good qualities. So, of course, it is a pastime. It is meant for glorifying the holy name. Ajamila was kind of a use case that even Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam tried to use him. But please understand that in case of Ajamila, he had Guru, he had Vedic knowledge. So it is not that Arjuna was anyway less educated. So in altogether total scenario, in spite of all of those things, one need to be understanding one important aspect, which I will use it in the whiteboard. So here it says 3 things as a practicing devotee, we need to watch out. Number one, misuse of one's free will. Because this is something that Krishna doesn't have control. Krishna has given us free will to each of us. Ajamila situation is when he was passing through, he had an opportunity to, we are now technical analyzing, this is all not, to blame or establish anybody anywhere. The idea is that it is important that as a practicing devotee, our free will or oblique, we can use the word, and our desire. So that's why we always regularly say, please desire nicely, please desire nicely, please desire nicely. As a practicing devotee, at least let us desire. So if we desire correctly, if we have right set of desires, so we can be easily saved from several problems. Because Krishna is watching out for how strong our desires are. Krishna is watching out for how serious our Krishna consciousness inclination is. So it is very important that if we have to get rid of this whirlwind of problems, this fall downs, this aparadha, the sinful activities, so we need to make sure that we keep our desires very strong. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains this as burning desire. Burning desire for practicing Krishna consciousness. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions this. This is the first thing. What is the second thing? The second thing is that one need, because in case of Ajamila, we are describing about Guru, we are describing about Vedic knowledge, here we are describing about his good qualities. So they are all good, but we need to understand the power of Vaishnava Siddhanta from a Vaishnava Guru. So the idea is that we need to be very careful. That is why Vaishnava Mukhodirnam Utam Harikata Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpa Uchishta Yatapayaha. Prabhupada repeatedly says, milk if not milk touched by a serpent. So it is important that we have Vaishnava Siddhanta and Vaishnava Guru. This I am explicitly saying this as practicing devotees. In the name of searching, seeking knowledge, information, and quest for getting into this. Our agenda is not to become knowledgeable. Our agenda is not to become Pandita. Our agenda is simply to be attached to Krishna and fall flat at his lotus feet. We do not have any other interest in Krishna consciousness. Our only interest in Krishna consciousness is to somehow or other we should make it back to Krishna. The knowledge is just a ladder towards that. If we get somewhere in the process, get attached to knowledge, get attached to power, get attached to position, get attached to various things, then we get into trouble. So, as a practicing devotee, we need to watch out for that how we are able to derive, associate with Vaishnava Siddhanta from a Vaishnava Guru. And the third the third aspect of it is we need to watch out for Ananya Bhakti and associate with the Angas of them. Because Ananya Bhakti is exclusive to Vaishnava devotees. By saying my point number 2, point number 3 is included, but I'm still highlighting it here because in the process of the associating with Vaishnava Siddhanta and Vaishnava from a Vaishnava devotee, from a Vaishnava sadhu, our goal is Ananya Bhakti. Our goal is we should watch out for association with the Angas of them. Otherwise, Ananya Bhakti can only give us Krishna, Ananya Bhakti can only give us access to devotional life. So, to summarize our entire conversation on the second aspect of the type 2, where we are, we started off how a practicing devotee who is committing mistakes is punished. So, the flow chart is pretty simple. A practicing devotee is a practicing devotee. We took the use case of Ajamila for our, use case of Ajamila. We can take several other use cases, but this is one single use case. But all the use cases, the scenario is pretty much applicable. So we start by saying how I am pushed into. Arjuna is asking the same situation, why and how I am pushed into committing sinful activities as if it is done by force. So answer is lust born out of mode of passion. And this Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how does that lust come? Because of by contemplating, associating with modes of material nature and being attached to them. And when we are developing attachment to them, we invite our own destiny. So how can I save myself from the modes of material nature? I can save them by my spiritual strength, by proper practice of Krishna consciousness and right attachment to the practices of Krishna consciousness. That is, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 3.43. And now the question is that how do I develop the spiritual strength that I have been recommended? How can I develop this attachment to Krishna consciousness? Now, attachment to Krishna consciousness can be achieved by our attachment to sadhu. So, hence, there are two things. By committing an aparadh to such a sadhu, who is eventually going to rescue you, it is like a drowning man being saved. That person, if he is pulling the saving person down, then both of them will have to be in trouble. So, hence, our Vaishnava aparadh is a grave offense. So, be watching out for that. But here it is explained that a Vaishnava, a sadhu, attachment to a sadhu, who is free from all the materialistic attachment, who has developed good qualities, can help us from the evil effects of modes of material nature. So that brings us to consolidate three things as a practicing devotee we need to watch out for. That in case of Ajamila, he had basically, as Krishna explains, Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mama Maya Duratyaya. So sometimes we may be thinking that I have Dhyan, I will save myself. Sometimes maybe thinking that I have high parentage, I can save myself. Sometimes we may think that I have 35 years of me being in Krishna consciousness, I am an authority, so nothing will happen to me. We may get overconfident about it. So the idea is that somebody need to be constantly need to watch out for how they are exercising their free will. It is important that Krishna will accept us back, or we will become eligible to go back to Godhead only when we are free from the sense gratificatory propensity, this doggish mentality, completely free from the effects of modes of material nature. Even 23 hours, if we are engaged in Krishna's service, 23 hours we are practicing devotee, but that 1 hour we are anchored towards our materialistic desires, till that 1 hour of our daily life is purified, We will have to be, coming back here and beating around the bush here. So hence misuse of one's free will, which means if we are not desiring correctly, if you are not desiring focusedly, if you are not desiring that, how I am, we need to be very focused also. Burning, that is why burning desire. And second aspect is Vaishnava Siddhanta from a Vaishnava Guru. Otherwise, still we are not working on it correctly. And third is make sure that they are all directed towards Ananya Bhakti and associating with the angas of them. So it is extremely important for us to focus on this. So as a matter of fact, that in our Krishna conscious journey, that as we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, sometimes we take certain things carelessly, sometimes we overlook certain things. So this analysis helps us to, very much get on to the crux of where the honey spot is. Because when we are playing a game or when we are trying to, what we kind of search for jackpots, where are the Kichori, where is the treasure? So we study so much of Vedic literature, but we lose the point. So then there is a problem. It is like, you study Bhagavad Gita and you study Bhagavatam, but finally you do not understand the conclusions of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, he says, whilst there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita in this world, what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita as it is? He says that by studying all those Bhagavad Gitas, not many have become devotees. The topic is Bhagavad Gita, but the delivery, the content, the focus, the drive, they are all something else. That is why Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is special for us. Okay. So now, in the same line, I would like to mention a logical thinking of just the same set of thoughts. This is to, sometimes what happens is that we may want to, make sure that I am walking in the, right path and the right journey. So there is the same flow chart. I want to represent them from, or I can say I want to present them from a further more granular perspective in terms of how our disaster situation or being in a messy modes of material situation, how do we reach the final destination? This is an 8-stage, progress. So we will mention that. So basically, it is like this. So generally, a person is in disaster. Disaster is sometimes our own destiny of being in suffering state. So a person is continuously, thinking why I am in trouble, why I am in trouble, why I am in trouble, why I am in trouble. So this disaster situation of this I am even telling this flowchart for helping a practicing devotee, because it is important, as I mentioned in the last session also. This particular section is the most important one because most of us fall in this section. The next section is going to be glorious. It is just Krishna Katha. Because next section, the last section is about how the Supreme Lord and how the Vaishnavas, they are, having a very loving exchanges, and they, punish, pull each other and try to have some transcendental ecstasies between them. So this is going to be more of a fun and enjoyment. But this is more of an analysis to help us straighten our life. So first of all, we need to agree and acknowledge the fact that there is a disaster. I mentioned in the very first class. If somebody doesn't even know that he is committing a mistake, he's in a big trouble. So half of the world doesn't even know that they are committing mistakes. They are doing something wrong. They are beating around the bush. They are not searching in the right place. So it is extremely important for us to know that when we are searching for peace and happiness, we need to make sure that the peace and happiness is searched in the right place. If the peace and happiness is not searched in the right place, then there is going to be a serious trouble. So, first is disaster, which everybody, that's the beginning point. When what happens is that when we really want to search the solution, because as we learn from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna sits as Paramatma and try to give us a scenario where we try to get a doubt. By our experiences in life. What are those experiences? The experience is that why bad things happen to good people, why good things happen to bad people. Is it so? Sometimes we start to doubt that is this the life? Is this what we are all about? Because Atato Brahma Jignasa, when we start to question, when we start to engage in dialogue to your own self, when we stand in front of mirror, what is Atma Nirikshan? What is introspection? I converse with myself. So then what happens that our doubt and when we see things around, if somebody with a neutral viewpoint, when somebody sees around, I recently heard an interview by a Muslim scholar in Pakistan. This is one of the old recordings. So he was appreciating about Bhagavad Gita, directions of Bhagavad Gita, and how what Quran and what other literatures are explaining. Bhagavad Gita is presenting higher dimensional science. How Bhagavad Gita is giving answers and solutions to so many problems and for so many categories of people. It is not an unilateral single directional. Different people, if somebody wants karma yoga, dhyana yoga, but somewhere or the other, please elevate your standard of life. So it was very nice interviews. Maybe I can share that in the group. So the idea is that our experiences in life, because of the experiences in life, what we do is we try to find out, can I get some words of wisdom? Those who are those who are. So then we develop a desire to learn more. So this is the trigger point. So when we learn to desire more, what do we do is naturally when you have a desire, then our friend Paramatma is waiting and he connects us to the devotees. So when you meet a devotee or a devotee meets you, it is not a fluke. It is not some choice. Either the devotee is hungry because of his compassion and his feeling for Krishna's heart. He is going pillar to post, door to door, to deliver poor souls. Prahlad Maharaj did not want to leave this world till the last soul in this world are delivered. So either a practicing devotee gets the mercy of self-realized soul coming and helping him, or a suffering souls or a practicing or a sadhaka or a seeker, he meets a devotee in the book distribution place or anywhere, someplace, somewhere. This connection is arranged by Paramatma. So that is why we were mentioning here, this connection is arranged by Paramatma. So if you desire, then Paramatma fulfills. Now, what happens is when we have desired, naturally what happens is that we get discrimination. And the discrimination, how it comes? When we are learning from those devotees. So discrimination is what we mentioned earlier, to know that this is correct use of free will. Our freedom, this is a separate topic, freedom versus free will. Our freedom may be restricted, but because of our free will, we either suffer or we either flourish. So, by associating with devotees, at least we come to know that we have been desiring something wrong. We have been associating with something wrong. We are doing something wrong. I have been utilizing my resources, my learning, my knowledge, my association, my beauty, my strength, everything in a wrong way. So now I get to discrimination. That is why the discrimination is always associated with introspection. I always use this word, honest, guided introspection. Honest, because I am supposed to be self-honest. Yes, sir, I have been in a disaster. And I need guidance. Guidance is from a practicing devotee. And I introspect. So when somebody does this discrimination, then they will get to see the result. They get to see the result, then they start to change their life by some way of dedication. So this dedication happens by our attachment to sadhana. So which means this guy teaches. What will teach? Any time when we go, you hand him a mala, Bhagavad Gita, prasadam, invitation card to the lecture. So what happens is that this dedication, when I am able to discriminate, when I am able to identify, when I am told I am dying, the amount of dedication, the amount of surrender, the amount of appreciation that I get for Krishna consciousness is something, absolutely different, because my intelligence is illuminated. So that is why this particular flow chart is a parallel to what we discussed. And I want to conclude this particular type today, and next week we'll take the type 3 and further. So from dedication, something arises. When somebody is dedicated, then what arises is what we call as discipline. The reason I am putting the previous flow chart into this way is we can kind of do a checklist, and we can also try to kind of understand that am I going through these phases? Am I, this is a spiral, but at least we need to cross check these items. How much dedicated I am, how much discrimination I have. Many a times we as practicing devotees, we sometimes forget that we are supposed to discriminate. Any food that is offered to us, oh, my friend gave me, I eat. Any video that comes to us, anything that comes to us, Ajamila or Indra for that matter, Ajamila could have used his free will, hypothetically speaking, that he could have, immediately turned his face away and left instead of watching that scene that he forest. So typically in our today's scenario, so many devotees are watching pornography. So many devotees are being addicted to watching Bollywood movies, and which is half pornography or whatever that is. So the idea is that we are somehow or other not discriminating. We are thinking that we are in a safe zone. So hence dedication and eventually discipline, and this discipline comes from active involved services under and authority. When we are performing this service, because we have a routine service, because we have an answerable service, we have some sort of a hope in trying to see to that our Krishna is supposed to be disciplined, and this discipline gives rise to what we call as determination. Somebody who has tasted somebody who has tasted service, somebody who has tasted the, so determination means we will have energy to fight. Energy, desire to fight against Kali, Maya, senses. So the idea is that if at all a practicing devotee is somehow or other is to stabilize his Krishna consciousness, it is because of his inclination to fight against Maya, knowing that I have Krishna. Fight against Kali, knowing that I have holy name. Fight against senses, knowing that I have services. So this determination, Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. And finally, the idea is that this determination will eventually be concluding in reaching our destination. So here we love devotees, serve devotees, and Krishna consciousness is way of life. And purity will be the force. So that is the conclusion of all our analysis. So before we end the session, I just want to say this particular portion where right from the journey of how somebody with false ego, envy, pride, illusion, anger, lust, greed, everything. So we were all in a mess. This is our stage where prior to coming to Krishna consciousness, we were all in a mess. And from that mess of disaster, we somehow or other, if we can ask questions, if we can somehow try to ask relevant questions. If we can ask these questions, then what happens is that at least by asking questions, by asking some points why what is happening, because questions are very powerful, and if the questions are asked for a right reason, then it is very nice. So once somebody asks a question, this question could be experiences in life, what you see around. That is why I always encourage devotees when they are traveling around, when they go to public places, they see around the society, the modern world, they help you, teach you a lot. You can learn both ways. 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a fantastic section where from the nature we can learn a lot. From the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is a wonderful explanation. How they are saying different parts of the nature can actually act as a guru to you. Anyway, so from the doubt we develop desire to learn more. Oh my God, which means there is something more, and that desire will help us to connect to Vaishnavas. With the help of Paramatma, we get connected, and then that leads to the desire leads to discrimination. I'm able to discriminate. I'm able to differentiate by use of the characters of the free will, and which with whatever learning that I have from devotees, I'm able to dedicate my life and develop attachment to sadhana and be disciplined by being engaged in active, involved service under the authority. And last but not least, discipline helps me to develop determination where I can fight against Kali, fight against Maya, fight against my senses, and I want to be practicing Krishna consciousness. And finally, I reach the destination to be associated with Ananya Bhakti. So we discussed our entire conversation today into two sets for discussing this type 2 section 3 of practicing devotee committing mistakes and punished. And this flowchart and the logic that we discussed here are something that will help us to work towards our Krishna consciousness in such a manner that we have some hope and we can definitely win ourselves and more people into the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and Srila Prabhupada. So thank you so much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We can take up any questions or comments and or any critiques, if there are any. So I'll be happy to respond. Hare Krishna. Next week we will discuss about the type 3, which is about how a self-realized devotee, because of some residual attachment, he even have to be going through some sort of purification. We will discuss the use case of our friend Jada Bharata and go over that. So this is a very scientific analysis of my understanding and whatever little bit of help that I received from my senior devotees, or not little bit, a lot of help from senior devotees, little bit of my endeavor. So I thought of putting this together into a small course. I'm sure it may not be very relevant or maybe boring to some people, but then I'm doing this for my purification. So please bless so that whatever I'm discussing with you all, I'm able to apply and practice in my life. So right now I'm in a holy dham called Madurai, and in half an hour I have to take another Bhagavatam class. So we have another 15-20 minutes to discuss any question answers. And after Bhagavatam, with all your blessings, I will be heading to Srirangam Dham, Ranganath Swami ki jai. So we are ending the Kartik, season. So I thought I'll take some shelter of the holy dham. Yes, Rachna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Very nice. I put my question in the chat if you can see. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Would you like to say something regarding the following verses? Sometimes piety becomes sin, and sometimes what is ordinarily sin becomes piety on the strength of Vedic injection. Such special rules in effect eradicate the clear distinction between piety and sin, and impure things may or may not impose sinful reactions upon a person, depending upon the person's strength or weakness, intelligence, wealth, location, and physical condition. One who has one transcendent material good and evil automatically acts in accordance with religious injunctions and avoids forbidden activities. The self-realized person does this spontaneously like an innocent child, and not because he is thinking in terms of material good and evil. So I would explain this scenario very nice. Thank you for the question. So last week we mentioned about one aspect which is about Sukrutota, Duskrutota, Aparadota, and Bhaktiyadota. I'm not sure if you were there in last class, where we mentioned that anarthas are born out of past sinful activities, anarthas are born out of past pious activities, anarthas are born out of even devotional activities, anarthas are born out of naturally aparadha. So past sinful activities, anarthas, understandable. How about past pious activities? Because of somebody being in a Brahmana, he naturally comes with a small amount of pride that I am a Brahmana, I am beautiful, I am knowledgeable, I am intelligent, I am leader. So that power position has got generally it is said, a leader has got an ego. And the ego is, to a right proposition is needed, otherwise he cannot dictate his terms to his praja. His dictating his terms is not imposed, but he has to show his authority, for which he has to have. If he is I am a fallen soul, I am like a doormat, he cannot, rule a country or rule a state or city. So hence, there are associated qualities with every function. So the first part of it, where piety becomes sin, So it is explained that even Sukritodda, sometimes because of your past pious activities, you may be forced to commit some mistakes, the anarthas. Now the converse point we'll discuss. How sometimes apparently sinful activities may be glorious. I'll give an example. Suppose, for example, I am driving in a road where my speed limits are 80 miles per hour or 100 miles per hour. What if I drive 130 miles per hour? How can a police come and catch me? The police have to drive more than 130 miles per hour. The police have to drive probably 150 miles per hour. The police may have to come from an opposite direction. From various ways they may have to do. So apparently that at that point in time can be seen, oh my God, you guys are yourself breaking the rules. But technically they are not breaking the rules for upholding dharma. So apparently when Krishna was trying to do something in the Mahabharata war, which is of course as a devotee we talk the most glorious thing, but from a morality standpoint also, what Krishna did was justified. Because from a morality standpoint, he was acting like a police. A police to catch hold of a thief, he may come, he may break the signal, he may drive faster than the allowed speed limit, he may try to, go on the shoulders. So various things that he may have to do. So I'm going to Srirangam, so I'm remembering a pastime of one of the Alvars by name Tirumangai Alvar. So this is another extreme. This is not even in the morality and righteousness. This is one level of devotion. In Tirumangai Alvar, he did dacoity and perform devotional service. So the point that is the second point that is mentioned, one who has transcendental material good and evil automatically acts in accordance with religious intentions and avoids forbidden activities. Technically, Tirumangai Alvar, he did dacoity and served Lord Ranganath. We have Prabhupada disciples, for the sake of serving Srila Prabhupada's mission, sometimes they did certain things notorious. So when the purpose of, in Tamil there is a very nice proverb, even if somebody is telling a lie, if that lie can save somebody's life, then that is no more classified as a lie. So that is what the point is. 11.7.11 is explaining that if you are understanding a transcendental perspective, then your only goal is to love Krishna. That is why in transcendental platform, material morality doesn't stand. Krishna having a girlfriend, while that girlfriend having their husband, is immoral. But for us, it is transcendental, highest form of devotion. So that logic, that transcendental sphere, deals with, we will not be able to deal with the materialistic sphere. So from that standpoint, it is important for us to differentiate. If we are a conditioned soul, we have certain rules. And even in the rules, sometimes apparently breaking the rules for protecting certain dharma is why I gave some example. And in the transcendental sphere, anyway, because everything is centered around Krishna, all the activities are justified. Did it make sense, Father?
Yes, very nice. Nice example of the police going after a thief. Yeah, very nice. Nicely explained. And I also want to thank you for last class. You gave a very nice good quotation from Jaiva Dharma from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, which I really liked. I couldn't come for the class, but I saw the recording. So I really liked what you said there, So thank you for that. But, see, the thing is recklessness you talked about, that we have to avoid recklessness. But then in Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmejaya, the son of Parikshit Maharaj, did recklessness when he did the Sarpa Yagya. to kill so many Sarpas. And then Prachetas, when they came after so much austerity of, tapasya, they came and they were burning the trees. The trees are also living entities, And then
Lord Shiva had to interfere.
Yeah.
Lord Shiva, you have to come down and pacify them. So basically, it is like this: when we are, recklessness is supposed to be avoided. That is why Janmejaya, or even Prachetas for that matter, their actions were justified at the same time questioned also, because Prachetas eventually Lord Shiva, he even gave advice before. He came and after that he came and kind of pacified and spent some time with them. So it is important. See what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Don't be complacent or don't be overconfident. Don't be over familiar with this process. You may slip away. That's all his point is.
Yeah. So I get the point, it's just that I find that Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to read it very thoroughly, because little knowledge is dangerous, If you just read one thing and if you don't see it if you don't read it carefully, you may misunderstand it,
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah.
definitely.
Thank you.
I mean, that is why Prabhupada used to read his own purports again and again. We have to read our own, for our own purification. That is why it is not reading, it is actually studying. Not just studying, it is scrutinizingly studying. Not scrutinizingly studying, but we are supposed to associate with Srimad Bhagavatam. So wonderful. Thank you so much for your, appreciation. Any other quick questions? I have 5 minutes.
Yeah, nice points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Excellent session, Prabhu. I really love it. Especially the 8 Ds that you mentioned: disaster, doubt, desire, discrimination, dedication, discipline, determination, and finally destination. That was awesome, Prabhu. Hope we can imbibe also.
I mean, this is, sometimes we software engineers, sometimes we want logical flowcharts to keep thinking. Something we need, some scaffold we need. This was once Gauranga Prabhu mentioned, this is not mine, Gauranga Prabhu's jai always. So, but I loved it, every time when I see them. So sometimes we need some sort of a, quick bite, just a quick bite, protein bar. Because I've been not eating a whole day, I need a protein bar. So these are all some protein bars for the same knowledge. We present it in a different way. Oh my God, something very nice. Same thing, same ingredient. You would have not eaten before, but when packaged differently, it is nicer. That's all. Nothing new.
But thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So, Prabhuji, you covered the 3 kinds of people now. So this was the last session, or you will be going forward?
No. So basically, we have one more. In this section, there's a third type, which is about a self-realized soul, who, like Jada Bharata type of soul, where even at the stage of Bhava, when mistakes are happen, how they are punished, and there are some lessons associated with that. Then we have the 4th section, which is about a person who is in the transcendental stage. There are like Jaya, Vijaya, and so many other examples. So that's good. And then one last section, which is about, as a summary of learning the entire thing, what are the steps, how a Krishna consciousness punishments in the modern day scenario, because now so many devotees in our community, in our congregation, in our near and dear ones, they make mistakes. How they are supposed to be punished? Because we see them sometimes they are punished in a manner that the Krishna consciousness is extinct.
Yeah.
So that's the last section. So there are 3 more sessions.
Sure. Definitely, Prabhu.
Please tolerate for 3 more sessions.
No. Don't say, Prabhu. Don't say. We are looking forward. Don't say that. Thank you, Prabhu, and please pray for us in Sri Rangam, for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. So we'll end here because I know you have another session. Vacha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhuvaya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Ramagiridhari Prabhu ki jai, all the assembled Vaishnavas ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you for joining. See you all next Wednesday. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.